Yeah, so this is front-end workshop 2. Get rid of this. Electric Bevo. So we are going to be making Bevo and CSS. I have no idea what y'all did in front-end workshop 1. So we'll do something fun. So I'm Ben. I do things, most recently digital signal processing, but for my electric ukulele because amps are expensive and DSP is fun. Colors are cool. I enjoy all of the colors. If you say you have a favorite color, you're wrong because they're all beautiful. And I do hackathons. This is, I guess, my 41st since last year. So today we're going to be making Bevo. So here you can see, let me go to presentation mode. The real Bevo and the one that we're going to be making in CSS with a little bit of HTML. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes and learn a lot, so it's going to be fun. Here's a table of content and the table of contents. So we'll start just getting set up on our platform. We're using an online integrated development environment to make things easier. We're going to start with the Bevo's HTML, start styling him with CSS, and then add some animations. So to start, go to codepen.io and make an account there. Let's see if I can pull up chat and just send something when you're done, or I guess there's only, what, 4 audience members, so just tell me you're done when you're done. All right, yeah, so once you
me too.
click pin there, it doesn't look like a button, but if you click pin, it'll make a new pin. And then you get something that looks like this. You can get rid of the JavaScript tab on the right. Does everyone see that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. So we'll start with HTML. And I got told that my explanation for HTML was too boring last time. So mix it up a little bit. So HTML is made up of a bunch of little hugger boys that hug stuff inside of them. And that stuff can be anything from more HTML, text, images. Images actually are HTML. I don't think we're doing any of that here. So we have these. They're actually called tags, not huggers, unfortunately. So you can put them inside of each other. We can have ones that don't like hugging things, so they close themselves. And those get converted into the boxes that you see on the screen eventually. So if you see a website, you have one big hugger for everything, and then inside more boxes, those are more HTML tags. So we're going to be modeling Bevo's face with HTML, and this is going to require a lot of divs. A div is the most basic HTML tag you can get. It's completely vanilla, nothing comes with it. So we'll start with the face, and we'll do div class equals face. And that class is just an attribute that we can use later with the CSS to determine what a face is. So if you type that in the HTML on your code pin, you should see absolutely nothing appear. Y'all get that?
Yep, got my nothing.
Awesome. Here's a little bit more nothing. So inside the face, typically faces have eyes, horns, and nostrils. Some of you might be missing horns, but that's okay, you're not longhorns. So you can add that to your face. I know it's a lot to type, so let me know when you're done.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to do with HTML. So like HTML is kind of a creative process. Like I said, Mohammed might roast me later. You could wrap the eyes in eyes class. You could just have left and right and then do fancy CSS. This is how I decided to do it, so that's how we're going to do it. So now onto CSS. It's cascading styling sheets. That just means it reads it from top to bottom. Makes sense. So if you declare something at the top and then declare it again at the bottom is the one that gets chosen by CSS. So this is what the rule set looks like. We do the tag that we want to select, curly braces, and then inside of here, we'll declare different style rules. So we had that tag with the class equals face. So in CSS, we can use .face, and it will select that tag. So now everything inside of here is going to give style to our face element in the HTML. So we'll start by giving our face a width, height, and a background color, and you should actually see stuff now. Let me know when you're done with that. Yeah, you should see that, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to reposition it, make it kind of circular, and then position relative. We'll talk about that later. Um, so I guess you can copy that down first before I explain. But margin auto is going to center it. So this is vertical position and then horizontal position. So we're moving it 130 pixels down, and then auto is going to center it on the page. This border radius, we're going to have kind of, it's not as curvy on the top, and at the bottom, we're going to have kind of a semicircle.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then the position relative, later on, we're going to add a position absolute to everything inside of the face. That position relative is going to let us style those absolute elements relative to the face instead of relative to the window.
Nice.
There's the code again if you didn't quite copy everything. Let me know when you get that. Yeah, so everyone got that? The kind of Bevo face now.
Yep.
Cool. So now we're going to add this below what we just wrote. So this is selecting all the div elements, regardless of what the class is, inside of the face, and giving them an absolute position so you can move them around the face a little bit easier. We can start in the eyes. So we'll add a rule set for the eye divs, just like we had before, dot, and then the class name, dot eye. And then we can give them a width, a height, and a background color. So we're gonna have nice demonic black eyes at first. We'll fix that later. And then we can give it a border, white border, so it's a little bit cuter. Border radius, we'll make it a circle. When you do 50%, that's essentially means make it a circle. If your width and height aren't the same, then this will make an oval. If you really want something that's just rectangular with semicircles on the end, then you can set it to something like 9,999 pixels. But 50% works here. The top 80 pixels is going to push the eyes down a little bit. And you should have one eye on the left side of the face, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Is it supposed to be on the border of it?
Yeah, it should be on the far left side right now. We're going to fix that.
Okay, cool.
So we added the left eye and right eye classes on the HTML tags. So you can just do dot left eye and give it left of 30 pixels. This only works whenever you have something like relative or absolute position. Otherwise, you have to use, I guess, margin left. And then right does the same thing, but relative to the right side. And now you should have that helix kind of spooked. And the code is all right there if you need it. Does that look like what you'll have?
Mm,
Good.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so make the eyes shine a little bit using CSS pseudo elements. So we're adding tags into our HTML, but without adding HTML. It can make HTML look a little bit cleaner when you do this in actual websites. So we do this using colon before. So this is going to make an element right before the I if you actually had a real element in HTML. And we always have to give it content. So if you put actual text in here, the text would appear inside of the pseudo element. And display block makes it like a div. You should have nothing again. Or not nothing, but what you had before. I deleted the code here, but you can then add width, height, background, and border radius, just like we did before. So this is going to make it a smaller circle. And this will put it in the top left of the eye. If you want to move the eye shine around a little bit, you can add margin dash left, or you can make this have a position relative and just add left and top. I just left in the top left corner though. Did y'all get that?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a longhorn, not a shine eye, so we'll add horns. And horns are kind of tricky to do in CSS. I actually had to ask a friend for help, like how do I make a horn? And they decided you should make a circle. That circle is going to be the same color as the background. And then behind that, you can have a shadow. So it's kind of like having two circles. but then the circle that's on top makes it look like kind of cuts away from that second circle. Hopefully that makes sense, or it will after you actually implement it. Yeah, so we have our dot horn, and that's selecting our horn element. Add width, height, background, border radius, just like we had before. And then we add a box shadow. So in the box shadow, it's just like a box shadow if you've used Photoshop. I think they call it drop shadow there, maybe. But you can give it an X offset, the Y offset. So where is it relative to its element? How blurred is it? We don't want to blur it at all so that it's like actual horns and not, I don't know, quantum horns that kind of blur around. And then that's a color. I think it's light orange. You can change that to white if you want. If you do that, it should make a really ugly circle on top of Bevo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to move it up so we can give it negative top. So it's going to actually be positioned above the face, and then z index -1 is going to push it behind the face.
So what does the z-index do?
It's, if you think of like an xy plane, you also have the z-axis that goes perpendicular to that, right?
Ah, I see.
The z-index is, yes, which element is on top of another.
Gotcha.
Like in PowerPoint, send to back, send to front. Z-index -1 is going to send it back one position.
Okay, cool.
And then we can style the right horn so we also get something there. We don't have to fix the left horn because it's already in the right orientation and it's already has left 0. But on the right horn, we can do right 0 to move it to the right side and then transform and scale the X by -1, and that's going to flip it horizontally.
It's so cute.
Should look like that. Yeah. I think that's as far as I went for this section. If you want to add the nose later yourself, I've got a demo of like what I did with it before I made the workshop at the very end. So now we're going to add some basic animations, just making the eyes roll around. So in CSS, we define animations with keyframes. So it looks something like this. We have at keyframes to say we're making an animation now. We give it a name and then curly braces. And then within that, we have the percentage of how far it is done with the animation. So this is a starting point. It'll be whatever styles we put in here. This could just be like any other selector. So you could have background white, 40% have a blue background, and then 100% have a white background again. And it'll automatically animate between those values. So we're going to make an animation to make Bevo's eyes roll. So we'll add keyframes, rotate, and we could call this whatever you wanted to. And then you can do 0%, from works too instead of 0%, and then 100% you could use 2 instead. And we'll add transform, rotate 0 degrees, all the way up to rotate 360 degrees. So it's going to automatically interpolate between those values as the animation goes on. So 50% is going to be rotated 180 degrees.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are these animations done in CSS?
Yeah, this should be in the CSS.
Okay, thanks.
I usually put it at the bottom of the file. It should work anywhere though.
Okay.
So did everyone get that?
Yeah.
So then we actually have to tell CSS which element to add this animation to. So we want to apply it to the eyes. So you do, we're actually declaring a new rule set. This should be in the old eye rule set that we had towards the beginning. Just add animation, rotate 2 seconds, infinite linear. So we're doing the rotation animation. It's going to last 2 seconds. We're going to do it over and over again. It's never going to stop. And then linear just means when we're interpolating, interpolate it linearly. So it doesn't matter where you are. in the animation, the change in rotation is always going to be the same. You can leave that out and see what it'll do. There's stuff like ease in, ease out. Yeah, lots of cool stuff you can do with that. If you want to make a ball bounce, you probably don't want to use linear. You might use some, I'm not sure what kind of curve you would use, but it's out there. And then you should see that, yeah.
Oh. Nice.
Y'all get it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, it was only 24 minutes. I don't know how long the workshop was supposed to be, but I don't have anything else officially. So
I mean,
demo, this is the one that I made. So he's kind of like munching on OU. So
I love that.
if y'all want to try reproducing this, I can stay on and answer any questions y'all have.
Wait, Ben, I have a question unrelated to this, just about HTML, CSS in general. So I haven't done much like front end programming at all, but something that always kind of confused me was the difference between an ID in a class when you're like going from HTML to CSS.
So IDs should only be on one element. Classes can be on as many as you want. I think that goes back to in JavaScript. Whenever you try to get an element by ID, it only returns one element. If you get it by class, then it'll return an array of elements.
Gotcha.
That's the main reason there. I think I usually use class all the time, even if it is only one, because what if I want another eventually? I don't want to have to go back and change everything from ID to class.
Makes sense. So we could also have done like one class for eyes and then given each like eye like an ID of left eye and right eye.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then CSS use the hashtag instead of the dot, but
yeah.
Other than that, I think they're identical.
Nice. Okay.
Did y'all see my contact info there if you have questions? Share my screen again.
You can share, I think, your information.
Yeah.
And we can link this on the YouTube video. We can put the presentation in the description if you'd like.
Yeah. Slides and then this one and I guess the finished product of the workshop.
It's adorable.
Yeah, you can connect on LinkedIn, GitHub, or my dev post.
Did you say you've been to 41 hackathons in the past year? Did I hear that correctly at the beginning?
Since January 2019, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
So if you had to estimate, like in the past, like in your life, how many would you say?
41. That was my first, yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Wow. Very impressive.
What are your top tips for hackers?
Practice. That's hard. I don't know. Have fun. Try to learn things. Don't worry about winning. Because really everyone wins, right? If you learn something, then you're going to win that next job interview.
Fair. It's fair.
I guess I don't know, this hackathon is a little bit different. But a normal hackathon, I'd say don't focus on business value and money and practicality. Try to do stuff that's really chaotic and creative. You always have the most fun with those, and usually both the judges more anyway.
Yeah, it's fair. That's good advice. Okay. If I guess no one in the chat or no one else has any questions, we can call it here, and we'll post the video for everyone. All of you watching at home, we'll post this video later on so you guys can follow along, as well as the code. And you guys have Ben's contact info if you have any questions or want to reach him with anything. I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you so much, Ben. That was awesome. Honestly, I learned a lot too, but I also knew nothing about HTML, so it's pretty cool that you were able to explain everything to me. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.